Welcome to the Mum CEO podcast. I'm your host, Esther Roach. Join me as we explore the dynamic intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship. From the challenges to the triumphs, we're here to unravel it all. Get ready for insightful conversations, practical wisdom, and a whole lot of inspiration. Let's embark on this empowering journey together. Hello and welcome to the Mum CEO podcast. I'm your host, Esther Roche, and today I'm joined by Chinelo. Hello, Chinelo, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Esther. It's lovely to be on here.
No, you're so welcome. If you would like to introduce yourself to the audience, please.
Okay, my name is Chinelo Onunekwu. I am a CPD-certified business strategist. I'm also known as the Entrepreneur Mum because I founded the online community called Entrepreneur Mums, which is literally what it is, empowering mums to create harmony. I don't like the word balance because I don't believe in true balance, but harmony between their lives and their businesses so they don't feel that they're missing out anything as they grow.
Oh, wow. And that's a really interesting take there with the harmony and the balance side of things, because it's a massive topic around that area. And you are a mum as well, I take it.
Yes, indeed, I am a mom, Esther. I've got two boys. My older one will be 23 in May, and the younger one has a milestone birthday. He'll be 18 in a few weeks.
Oh my gosh, they're nearly leaving home, hopefully.
Yes. But they never really leave home. They always insist on having their spaces. It's that thing of they fly and then they come back. They always want a base, which is good.
Yeah, no, it's nice. It's nice to see them come through to the other side. So, just to talk a little bit, because obviously, I can see how old your children are. When did you start your business?
This is really interesting because starting as a business person, I started when I was about 16 in Nigeria then, yes. I'd gone into computing and graphics design, and I started creating graphics and slogans and found that people were paying for them. That was my first introduction into realizing that people would pay for value if they had good stuff. But before that, actually, my mum and my grandmother were first entrepreneur mums in my family. So I saw them actually building businesses. So fast forward, I then went into my profession, my background, which is software development and IT consultancy, but mainly men, a lot of men focused, if you like. It's changed a lot. Then there is a lot of men. And it was in that environment that I learned how to develop my resilience, grit, working with systems, being organized, time management, all that kind of stuff. And shortly after that, we needed to move we lived in London and we needed to move. I'd always loved property and real estate. Right. So I toyed with education and that side because I love knowledge, I love reading. And we suddenly had 2 weeks to leave, 2 months to leave where we were in Battersea in London, and we couldn't afford anywhere else. So I was forced to use all the knowledge I had to find somewhere for us to live. That led me into the business of being what I do now, a property entrepreneur, which is my day job. However, what happened along the way was, for various reasons, I needed to home educate. I know this is a long-winded answer, but my path hasn't been linear. It's the direction I took.
None of them are.
I know, to get where I am now. So for various reasons, we started home educating our children. So I've home educated for, about 17 years. And as part of that, I found my community of home educating moms, and so many of them had talents. And as moms, as we usually do, they underestimated themselves. They didn't believe in what they had. So I found myself in the playgrounds always coaching women, these moms, about what to do with their businesses. That's how it started. And one day, one mom heard me talking, and then she came, got some advice, and said to me, "How much do I owe you?" And I was stunned. I thought, "What do you mean? How much do you owe me?" And she said, "You're not charging for this." I said, "No." And she gave me this really candid talking to that has never left me. She said, "You're blessed with a gift. but you're not being a good steward of that gift, because for every time you spend helping somebody develop their business, you're spending time away from yourself or your family. You can never get that back. And you're not actually being compensated for that time, which you're not getting back. So how much do I owe you?
Wow.
And I was stunned. I thought, oh my goodness. Because in my mind, as with most people, business is bricks and mortar. It's something where you exchange. Even if you were exchanging a service, you'd still need an office, something. That was the way my mind worked. And it should be difficult. But this thing I was giving so freely, how could anybody call it a business? But anyway, I went away with what she said, and being an international community, it was a community of experts. Some of them traveled to Australia, America, but still kept in touch with me. And I was communicating with them, but the difference in time zone wasn't working for me. Yeah. So I thought I've got to think about how to create this as a proper business. And that's where Entrepreneurs started. From that playground, it's now become something where we have people from all over the world that I work with. Every time I share this, I'm always so stunned, because as with many people, it starts with the seed. And then when you see the oak tree, you have to look back and think, oh my goodness, I couldn't have seen this start. So that's the long-winded answer to what I do now as the entrepreneur.
Yeah, but it's I think it's important to reflect on that journey, because sometimes we see overnight success, but we don't actually realize that somebody's been on such a massive journey. And it's, you've mentioned so many things that I would like to talk about there, but then we will need like a whole month to talk about it. But, funny enough, this morning, I actually recorded a mini episode about, mums having transferable skills and stuff like that, which is pretty much what you were doing, trying to support them and help them back in the day. And it's interesting as well that you've met this lady who say to you, how much do I owe you? Because otherwise you wouldn't have a business today. If somebody hadn't prompted that to you, you would have thought, well, who wants to hear what I have to say? And I think a lot of us do that, don't we? What sort of challenges do you think hinder women in terms of making that leap of faith, basically, to kind of, whether they're going back to work or whatever it is, what challenges do you think?
The biggest thing and the main thing, the fundamental thing, is mindsets. And that's what I teach my entrepreneurs, because I've got all these transferable skills. But I say to them, I was coaching somebody yesterday, I said to her, it doesn't matter what I teach you. If your mind doesn't agree with where you want to go, you won't get there. I could literally open your brain and put everything I know into it, give it you all my resources, but you'll still be in this place in a few months' time. You've got to actually work with your mind. Our minds are like computers. I'm a tech nerd, so I talk a lot about computers. Whatever you feed it is what it brings out. Whatever you prioritize is what it prioritizes. So you could put all this information into it, but if we say to ourselves, nobody wants this, then your mind parks it because nobody wants it. It focuses on those things that people do want. So it's all about mindset. And it's funny because because it's not so, it's not glamorous. People don't understand the importance of it. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Whatever you have within you comes out. So that it's like building a house. If we don't create a foundation, it's shaky. A lot of online businesses, yes, there is the place for starting imperfect action. Just start and build as you go along. But that's a lot of what we see online. People who've, like you said, overnight success, but there isn't the foundation. When there's a shaking, they suddenly disappear, because they didn't dig down in their minds to see where they're going. Now, the biggest compliment somebody paid me was a VA who I've worked with for almost 7 years now.
Wow.
And she said, because we had a bit of a rough time with one aspect of business she was working with me on. And she said, a friend asked her, why did you stay with Chinelo? And she said to her, from before we came online till now, she is saying the same thing. And it brought me to tears because I hadn't realized that.
Yeah.
It's just something I've been doing daily. But I'm not saying we don't pivot, because we pivot as we grow. But your mind, you need to get to that place where you know without a shadow of a doubt, this is what I was called to do. And nobody can believe for you. If you don't have confidence in yourself, nobody else will have confidence in you. And it's not, as mums, as an African, and my generation were brought up feeling that it was immodest to talk about things we do. So if somebody compliments you, like, no, 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 oh, you shouldn't be proud, you shouldn't be boastful. And yes, don't be proud, don't be boastful. There's a difference between that and being confident. If somebody says to you, what's your name? You don't say, it might be Esther. No, my name is Esther. That's who you are. When you then start saying, my name is Esther because I've got this, that's boastfulness, that's being prideful. But when you know this is a gift I have, not because I am more deserving than anybody else, it's a gift I've been blessed with, and the reason for it is to help somebody else. It changes your mindset. It takes you away from that place of feeling that imposter syndrome, which still visits all of us, but understanding the fundamental purpose that you have is what we need to move forward. The minds.
Yeah, that is so well said, because I think, there's so many things that can hold people back, and especially, with the mindset and everything, because I think, again, it's another area where it wasn't really spoken about, and it's almost like you speak what you become, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
If you feel like you're not good you're not good enough,
yes,
how can somebody else believe in what's going to come
exactly.
out of your mouth later on? But also, I just look at, there's so many, honestly, like I said, I think we could be here for a whole month. But I just wanted to pick on something whilst it's still fresh, and that's the changes or the different aspects of your career, because that's another scary thing.
Yeah,
Before it was people qualify, they train to be X, and they will
yes,
stay in that profession until they retire.
yeah,
And nowadays, I always say to my own children, I'm always saying, yes, you're doing this now because they're expected at 16 to know what they want to do for the rest of their lives. That's not always the case. So it's always saying, do what you're doing now, but you can
yes,
always change. But
yeah,
another point as well is remembering that, like you said with your VA about, saying you've been saying the same thing. It's remembering the values,
yes, yes,
and
yes,
linking everything that you're doing, isn't it? It's kind of like trying to tie it all in. But how
yeah.
do you, what kind of encouragement would you have for somebody who feels like, oh, I've done this for 20 years. Can I change my career now, or is it too late for me?
Um, okay, Warren Buffett, who I'm not sure what position he is now, was the richest man in the world for however long. He gained his wealth. He started becoming wealthy at past 50, if I'm
Mhm.
not mistaken. But all everybody knows about him is he's the richest man in the world. Nobody remembers where he started. KFC, I believe the original founder of KFC was, again, either in his late 40s or 50s. I'm talking about men, yes, but there are examples that come readily to mind. There is no late. There's a saying in my native language, Igbo, that whenever somebody wakes up, that's their morning. You can't compare your morning to somebody else's. You can't compare your step one to somebody else's 5 years. They started before you. They paid their dues before you. So wherever you start, wherever you choose to start then.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is, wherever you choose to start, whenever you choose to start, you have a tribe, you have an audience, you have somebody wanting to hear your voice. So you start at 30, for instance, maybe you're a mum at 30, you start then. There are mums who are 30 who have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
They're your audience. If you start at 16, there's 16-year-olds who are lost and have no idea. Like you said, they've been told to do this for the rest of their lives. You've got your ideas sorted for now. You can say, this is what I'm doing now. You
Mhm.
start at 50. 30-year-olds are thinking, what would I be doing at 50? And you can say, here I am. I'm starting over. There is no late. What I think is it's more about regrets than late, because I've never met anyone who's regretted starting something. I've met people who regretted not starting sooner.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, and guess what? We'll fail. We'll fail. You dust yourself up. As mums, I say to my entrepreneur mums, what do you say to your children? Do you say to them, because every child that you put on a bicycle says, I can't do this, I can't do this. You say to them, oh, never mind, because you will fail. So don't try. We don't say that. We give so much grace to everybody else, but not to ourselves. So think about that. Your child, even if the child failed 50 times, would find something from within us to encourage that child, because we know that keep trying, success will come. Even if you have to pivot, success will come.
Well, that's well put. I can't even pick on that anymore. That's so well put, because we do, and we do that, in terms of the encouragement to keep going and stuff. But I feel like, I think nowadays we do have quite a lot of that happening, and a lot of the mums or business people I speak to generally look at things like mentoring and stuff like that, which again wasn't a thing, or it was a thing, but it didn't quite have all the fancy titles and everything else. It's just something that was done. But the importance of mentoring, in your own experience, what would you say is the importance of having that somebody? Because it doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg, but it's having that person to lean on and get that vital support.
That is so, so important. You've touched on something that makes me feel sad in some ways, because after people realized I could become a coach or a mentor, it became a thing, and it's been abused in so many ways by various people and there's this saying that you don't have to be an expert, you just have to know more than one person or however many people in a room, which is fair to a certain degree. However, if you're doing that, don't charge an arm and a leg as though you've been doing it for years. That's one of the problems we see in that space. Now, I say that before I say it is important to have somebody who's gone ahead of you. There's something I always say to my children that my grandmother asked me a question when I must have been about 8. And she asked me, she said, what's more important, walking up the road yourself or hearing from somebody who's gone on that path? And I thought about it for a very long time. And I said to her, it depends. Is the path painful? And it stuck with me because, and like I didn't realize it actually created a mindset for me then. So I like to walk my own path, but not if it's painful. I don't want to feel the pain if somebody else can share that pain. But if somebody has experienced that pain, you need to give them something in exchange for the knowledge they're sharing. In this case, money, right? And I've got so many mentors over the years. I've worked with, so for business strategy, when I came in from my IT profession into the online space, I was one of those people who thought online businesses were for people who were hobbyists. It wasn't a real thing. And I kept thinking, but there must be a way to make it real. And like I alluded to earlier on, if you don't have confidence in yourself, you can't expect people to have confidence in you.
Yeah.
So I came across a lady called Lisa Johnson. She's a business strategist. And
Lisa.
there you go. What attracted me to Lisa was the fact that she came from corporate as well and had been able to bring those principles into the online space. So I got certified as a business strategist through Lisa, because I could then see how those skills could be transferred properly to build a proper business. Yeah. And then when it came to social media, strategy for social media, I have a mentor who's now become a close friend called Kimberly Olsen. She's in the States. I've paid all these people. I haven't ever resented paying people for their services because, like I said, they've walked the walk. Just make sure that the person you're paying is somebody that you align with, is somebody that sees you, not just your money. Yeah. Is somebody who has a track record, is somebody that you can rely on, is somebody that you can be your authentic, vulnerable self with. I have a property mentor called Sarah Poynton Ryan, who there are some days where property deals I've worked on for years will suddenly collapse. And the whole mentoring session would be me crying, and she'd listen. And after that, she'd talk to me. So that was the safe space for me.
Yeah.
If somebody would say, why would you pay that much to cry? Because she understood the journey. And after that, she'd pick me up and say, listen, I've been here, and she'd give me an example from her life, which would galvanize me to go the next way. I'll just round up by saying there's this saying that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
There'll always be somebody. There's nothing new under the sun. It feels like that when we're in it, But there is nothing new under the sun. But you will never know if you're not talking to anybody else. Choose the person you're talking to, somebody who's been on that road and is going where you want to, or who's been where you want to go to.
Wow. I love the way you've explained it, because I think it's quite a scary thought to sort of just delve into getting a mentor and stuff, because, one of the elements that scares people away is the costs that are involved in it. But, over God knows how many years, a bit like your situation as well. I've always done that. I'll see something and then I'll be like, okay, do this, or, try and do this. Why don't you this? And I listen and try and support people. And everybody's been like, you must be, you should be a coach and stuff. I do mentoring. But it's kind of like you don't look at it in that way. You sort of think, well, I'm only just sharing what I know.
Yes.
Somebody else is saying, well, that's good enough because you know
It is.
about it.
Yes.
You're not going to go out sharing what you don't know. But it's like you said, having the relationship where you can be
Yes.
your vulnerable self and
Yes.
trust that the person is there for you,
Yes.
not your money. And that's the
Not
difference,
your,
I suppose.
yes.
Yeah,
That's a
because
big,
that you see that as well. Unfortunately,
yes,
it's every
unfortunately.
business has got those problems that happen. So, that's really well put. So, coming to, you mentioned the strategy stuff, and I
Yes.
wanted to touch on the importance, if you like, of having some recurring income, basically, because that's another area where sometimes we feel, oh, I've got one pot of money coming in, but if that pot, if anything happens and that money is not coming in, how are you going to pay your next bill? How are you going to survive and stuff like that? So, tell us a little bit about that and how it works for you.
Well, I mentioned my mum and my grandmother being the first role models in my life. Now, my mum had a business. She was a midwife and she had, gosh, about 5 businesses. My grandmother was a retired midwife and she sold fabrics and jewelry. She sold gold in Nigeria. Now, based on that, we lived a really comfortable life. But then my mum died at 12, and all of a sudden, everything disappeared. From having this really good life, we moved to live with my grandmother, who at the time then couldn't, because I had a little sister who then couldn't travel for her business, and that too dried up. So from having a really, really good lifestyle where we used to travel and all that kind of stuff, I found myself, I shared this on social media at one point, on the streets in Lagos begging for food because I had removed myself from my grandmother. I didn't want her to be burdened with it. Now, what I realized was my mom had multiple streams of income, but she didn't have any systems. She didn't have any plans set in place for generational wealth and legacy. My grandmother had one stream of income. So when that was affected, there was nothing else. And that's part of what motivated me to say, okay, I understand. I've always had that entrepreneurial mindset, and I'm so happy that my boys have got the same kind of mindset. But that got me thinking there must be a different way. Yes, we have our jobs, but yes, we have multiple streams of income. But how do we protect that? So building systems and making sure that whatever you do, obviously, is diversifying. So you could say, for instance, somebody in IT could say, I have my day job, but then I have a contract. That's not multiple streams of income in my mind. It's the same stream. It's just that you're doing 2 different jobs. So having something, if one thing, say, if you were a farmer and there was a drought, you're working as an IT contractor, different things, but then having systems in place to protect your income. That would be my advice. That's one of the things I talk to entrepreneurs about as well. And over and beyond the immediate of money drying out, a lot of us have been through so many things. If we paid the price, like I said, our children shouldn't have to do the same.
Yeah.
So when we think about recurring income, I take it a step further. That's why I talk about building generational wealth and for legacy. Hand over something to them, obviously with value, so they don't fritter everything away, but they will have their own set of problems. But let it not be the same that we had. Let's do something different for them.
No, that's incredible. And it's almost like, sharing a similar-ish story, because for me, that's my drive for doing what I do, on a daily basis, because I was 16 when I lost my dad, but he was the main breadwinner. And, from having such a super comfortable life to not knowing where the next set of fees is going to come from was it's a scary, scary thought. And you always think, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to wait for something like that to happen in order for you to set up or have some strategies in how you're going to sort of pay the bills if one stream shuts down. So that's such an important aspect really to share. And I'm glad that you share it, with your community, because it is super important to sort of bear that in mind, especially when people feel we can't do anymore, or I can't do it. How can somebody do it and I can't? Everybody can. we just need the right support. And in terms of you had role models, your mom, your grandma, so it's not something that was new from you. And I always talk about how a lot of these things, the strategies, the business side, it's not taught in school. How have you impacted your own children with your own journey?
Well, fortunately for us and for them, they've been home educated.
Yeah.
So they've seen our journey, they've seen our ups, they've seen our downs. So we had service accommodation properties, for instance. When a cleaner would let us down, we'd all go in the car with the boys who'll go and do the cleaning. When we're setting up new properties, they do the same. When we're going to view properties, they do the same. With even now with entrepreneurs, when I'm creating digital products, for instance, where I'm sitting here, my son yesterday set it up. He said to me, "Mum, you've got to do the camera this way, that way, that way." Because even though I like tech, there's certain things I don't pay attention to. So he set up everything I've got here. And then he, this morning, I said to him, "Oh, I've never spoken to Esther before. I don't know what the interview will be like. This is what Esther sent to me, what we'll be talking about." And he said to me, "Oh, should I drill you very quickly?" I said, "Okay." So they see day by day everything we do.
Yeah.
They see the good, the bad, the ugly. And I think that's the best way to protect our children, because some people think mollycoddling is protecting. No, because you don't equip them for those times that will come, and they will come. The challenging times will come.
Yeah, no, that's my take on things. It's like they've got to learn, they've got to understand to do things, because if I'm not here, they should be able to stand up on their own 2 feet and, be able to manage themselves and also survive and live. And, at least we're preparing them for the world that they're entering and everything. What are sort of your final tips really that you'd have to encourage, other women around the whole harmonizing of family, work life, and that sort of stuff, really?
Well, there's this concept of work having to be hard. We don't need to hustle more. We just need to work smarter.
Mm-hmm.
Mindset, systems, structures, automation, and remembering harmony over balance. There's some days when your family will need you more. There's some days when your business will need you more. Don't feel guilty about it. You're modeling real life for your children so that they're equipped, as we just said. So and start where you feel comfortable, that you're not competing with anyone. You're competing with who you were a second ago. Start where you are and keep moving forward. That would be my advice. And yes, seek mentoring, seek a community, seek people who speak your language, because that's not always the case with entrepreneurs. We're usually surrounded by people who don't understand what we're doing. So find that place where you get the support that you need to grow.
No, fantastic. That's some brilliant tips on there. And for those that would like to work with you and find out a bit more about what you do, where can they find you?
Oh, okay. For those who are just starting or wanting to dip their feet into the whole online business thing, I just created a product called the 15-minute digital product formula. It's a product that uses AI ethically to help you create your first product. The person who's used the longest time is taking somebody to work through it is 17 minutes. You get a product that you can actually use at the end of it. It's a low entry into my world. For somebody who wants something more structured, I've got the Entrepreneur's Growth Hub, which is a growth group coaching thing that I've got a wait list for. That's where I teach multiple streams of income, how to market yourself, visibility, all those other things. And then for somebody who wants to work with me one-on-one, who wants somebody to say, "You're doing well, but that's the next step forward," I've got the personalized, customized strategies to help them move forward with what they're doing so they can actually achieve their own goals faster. And I've got what I'm working on that I'm really excited now is a vault of expert interviews.
Oh,
of the moving the needle forward. And I've got experts because I've got a wide network that I'm connected with. So we're covering things from ADHD in adults, menopause in business, special needs advocates. I've got legal advisors here in the States, accountants here. I've got social media, somebody who's certified by Meta as a Facebook community builder. So I've got a lineup of over 20 at the moment. I'm really excited about that. But anyhow, I'm very approachable. Send me an email, chinelo@entrepreneurmoms.com. Find me on, I'm more active on Facebook than Instagram.
right.
Send me a DM. And yeah, we can talk.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Chinelo. It's been such, I've loved our chat today, and I'm sure the audience is going to pick up some really useful nuggets from that conversation. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Esther. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and I hope we'll have a lot more of this. You're inspirational. I heard about you, and yeah, I'll be stalking you and connecting with you later.
Thank you so much.